I have a cat in my bed. They're laying in front of the pillow right there. You see their collar.
Finn has been, I guess, like chilling on my keyboard whenever I come home from work. He's just like there on my desk after like I walk in, I change, I get my stuff to shower, and then he's just on my desk outside my shower.
Welcome back to the Lost Ledgers. Uh, it's been a week. We finally started posting things again, so we're glad that you're here. If you've been following that, uh, I'm Shawn. Below me is Justin, and below him
Howdy.
Zach.
Hi.
How you guys doing? How you guys doing this week?
Yo, I'm riding the high from the Super Bowl, so like this week's been flying the fuck by for me.
Doing good. I'm getting excited for a long trip to Missouri. So
Damn,
A long trip
Missouri.
of misery. So sorry, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
10 days.
10
Whew.
days, which means Zach will not be here next week.
Mhm.
It means
And
Adam better be here.
may not be technically here for the week after because he would have less time to prepare for stuff, but we'll see.
I usually do
Adam's
it
in the
Tuesday
chat.
anyway.
Yeah. Hey Adam, look who you're missing out on.
I mean, he's in the chat, so
Yeah, not forever. He'll be board.
That's
He'll be
true,
boarding
not
that.
forever.
He'll be boarding that plane here soon.
he
But
won't be in the
don't
chat
you-
forever because this podcast will not go on forever. So
Don't you wish you were in the chat forever?
But anyway, this week we are bringing more spells. I think probably the well that we've drank from the most on this podcast, because they're so fun to make, and there's so many things you can do with them. This week we're doing an interesting twist in that we have brought spells which are upgraded versions of current spells in the same vein as True Resurrection is an upgraded version of Resurrection, or Delayed Fireball is an upgraded version of Fireball, and stuff like that. An example that is explicitly not an example but should be is Greater Restoration, which is not at all an upgraded version of Lesser Restoration. It's just a different spell altogether, which is what we did not do this week.
But almost.
But almost did. But I think this subject was fun. I liked making the ones that I did. The hardest thing was choosing spells to make spells from. I think.
There are a lot of
I find myself having a hard time when we have to take things that already exist and work on them.
That is
Like
very
last week I
interesting.
struggled, and this week I was just it was hard for me to come up with stuff for it, and both involved like things that were already in the game.
That's true. That's interesting because I find those weeks the easiest.
this
I
one.
find
This one was significantly easier for me.
I guess we'll find out why that was the case. Because we are going to jump into it. Of course, we're not getting to Justin's, I think, till the second from last set. I think I have Adam's last because he's not here.
Damn.
But on the screen right now, we have Zach's spell that he brought, which, as you can see in the title, is an upgrade to the Curse of Daggers. Zach, why don't you go ahead and jump in for us?
Yeah. Dagger Storm of Wounding. Upgrade to the Cloud of Daggers. 5th level Conjuration. Sorcerer, last minute added Warlock as well. So Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard. Casting time 1 action, range 120 feet, VSM, a handful of glass, and concentration up to a minute. Violent spitting daggers are conjured, filling a 15-foot radius, 30-foot high cylinder centered on a point within range for the duration. When a creature enters the spell area for the first time, or on a turn, or starts its turn there, it is swarmed by sharp, swirling daggers, and it must make a dexterity saving throw. It takes 12d4 slashing damage and gains a wound on a failed save, or half as much damage and does not gain a wound on a successful one. A creature that has a wound takes 1d4 necrotic damage at the start of their turn for each wound they have. Additionally, a creature that has a wound regains half as much hit points anytime it is healed until the wounds are gone. At the end of each of its turn, a creature that has a wound can make a Constitution saving throw, ending the effects of all such wounds on itself on a success. Alternatively, the wounded creature or a creature within 5 feet of it can use an action to make a Wisdom Medicine check, ending the effect of such wounds on a success. On each of the turns after you cast the spell, you can use an action to move the storm up to 30 feet in any direction. So it's kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different concepts.
Yeah.
It is. It's like a combination of the Storm of Daggers and the Infernal wounding effect that the Bearded Devil has.
It's mainly based on the Sword of Wounding.
Sword of Wounding also, I think it's like the same effect where it's like they get wounded and then
Yeah, that's what the wound effect on here is basically based on that. And plus I added the reduced healing.
Nice.
Okay.
The one thing that I would say just right off the bat is I think it could probably do more damage per wound, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
As an example, there's the spell Acid Arrow, which actually one of Adam's spells is based off of, which has the similar effect of they take 12d4, or sorry, they take 4d4 damage on the hit, and then the start of their, or no, the end of their next turn, I think they take 2d4 additional acid damage. And if you scale that up, it's 1d4 for both. So if we took that to 5th level, I think it would be 7d4 and then 5d4. So 12d4 altogether for that. But
the reason I didn't do more on the wounds is because the initial, like the actual cloud or the storm of it does a bunch of damage, and also you can move it so you can get that damage procced more than once on people, perhaps.
I think
yeah, well, you can't do that with spells.
Not
like
not
this,
on
like
one
Moonbeam.
turn, but like I mean, like you can move it, like if they get out of it, like re-hit them with the storm, basically.
like at the start
Yeah,
of their turn.
if they start their turn there, yeah.
Mhm.
But I think it'd probably be better.
Plus, the wound is also to help with like negating healing as well. So that's kind of
Yeah,
half the
yeah.
effect. It wasn't fully for the damage.
Yeah, what you think? Does the wounding sword do the thing that the infernal wounding does?
It does not do the healing thing, and I don't know what the Inferno wounding
The
thing
infernal
does.
wounding thing just makes it you can't heal via non-magical means or something like that.
No, that the healing thing is not based on anything else.
Oh, okay.
My thing that the thing that I'm concerned about is the difference in damage between this and then Blade Barrier, which is a 6th level spell. Granted, Blade Barrier, much bigger of an area. You can make a straight wall, 100 foot long, 20 feet 20 feet high, or you can make like a ring, like a 60-foot diameter ring. It provides 3/4 coverage to creatures behind it, and the space is difficult to drain. Same thing when a creature starts its turn, they make a save. The damage is 6d10. So I was trying to figure out the average for that, which I believe is
33.
Yeah.
The
So
damage for this is 24.
yeah, so it is roughly a little bit more damage per round, but you can't move it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Can't move it, and this also has the added effect of the wound. You can
yeah,
hit multiple times or have multiple wounds on you, and you have half healing. So I
yeah,
didn't
that's
want to make this damage too high, and the only reason that it's D4 is just because it's daggers.
right.
And I
Right.
think
I mean,
the Storm Daggers is, or not
It's
Cloud of
D4s.
Daggers is also D4s.
Yeah.
I think it's 4d4. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think that this could afford to be less damage on the initial hit and then more damage on the wound. Say like, I don't know, 8d4 and 2d4. One, because you do have a lot more benefits in that you can move it, which means you can force creatures into the area, unlike Blade Barrier. And it has that wounding effect, which, because this damage is pretty close to Blade Barrier's damage, and I think that would probably be one of the better aspects of Blade Barrier. Blade Barrier obviously is supposed to be used also as like a barricade almost. A barricade.
Yeah.
So like it has that going on for it because it also treats itself as being obscuration.
3 colors cover.
Yep.
Oh, cover. I misheard.
And difficult
Yeah.
terrain.
Yeah,
Which is
three
pretty
quarters
good.
cover. Yeah,
Which
that's
is
a
pretty good.
+5
But-
to your AC.
That is really good. But I would say that's probably comparable because this is obviously more of an offensively oriented spell. Whereas that's defensively, but it has the damage component to it. I can see this being a little bit more damage. I think it would be worth it to have the wounds do a little bit more as well. That way, the creature who's taking the damage, I guess, well, now that I think about it, it being less damage de-incentivizes the creature from doing the healing. Like the medicine check.
Until they get built up.
But maybe you kind of want them to do that, though, because it costs them their action to do so. So you kind of want them to waste their action doing that. So more damage would probably be better.
Well, it's kind of good either way, because either they're wasting their action, or if they do get healed, they're not
suffering
getting
the half
healed.
healing. Yeah,
and they're just taking a little bit of damage. And then if you are able to move it onto them repeatedly, or they end up staying in it for multiple turns, then they are possibly having more wounds and it's building up. I wouldn't be opposed to changing damages here, but the damages that I have made sense to me based on the spells that I looked at that were 5th level, and around that, plus the initial damage for the amount that it does initially and per turn, plus the extra effects. I didn't want to make it too much initial damage.
I think if we drop it down to maybe 8d4 and then bump the wound up to it would feel weird changing the damage die, but
I don't think we should change the damage
then.
die.
Yeah.
I don't think we should change the damage die. That'd be the one thing I'm most against.
What if the initial wound that you get is higher? So when you get your first wound, it's 2 or 3 d4, but then whenever you get an additional wound, you just get another d4 added on.
That would just add more text to it, which I think might make it a little too clunky. I think it's okay. I think it's okay if it stays at 1d4 or is 2d4. I probably want to go higher than 2d4. I do think the initial damage should be a little bit less, just because it does have the additional effects.
If you think the initial damage should be less, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I'm actually thinking more like 10d4, which would be 5 less average damage. And I think 1d4 for the wound is probably okay.
I think because it can be applied multiple times and you can keep doing it, the 1d4 is fine.
Yeah, mostly because of the half hit point regaining thing, because it's really good against creatures that regenerate. And
that's partially why I gave it the more initial damage as well, because if you're not using it against creatures that regenerate, it's still useful.
Yeah.
But also just 12d4 seemed right compared to some of the other 5th level spells that I was looking at. But I'd be willing to tune it down a little bit because of the other effects it has, and the fact that you can move it is the thing. So you're really either forced to be stuck in it, taking that 12d4 every round, or if you move out of it, you can possibly have it moved back onto you, taking that every turn.
That is good. I will say, though, that the spell is very unwieldy because of how fucking huge it is.
Yeah.
Cloud of Daggers is only a 5 foot, or is either a 5 foot radius or just a 5 foot space.
5 foot space.
Yeah, it's just a 5 foot space.
So it's it could be fucking anywhere, and you can move it to a space without having to worry about hitting anybody else. This would take a lot more maneuverability. I feel like it's very possible that once you lay this spell down, you may not even be able to move it to another advantageous spot.
Do you think maybe making it a smaller radius? Because I originally was gonna make it.
Yeah, I think a 10-foot radius is.
Smaller.
I think a 10-foot radius fit would be just enough, because that's enough for, I believe, 6 creatures. Or 6 medium-sized creatures. Which is a lot of damage if you are able to,
Yeah, I don't know if you can ever bank on really hitting that many creatures in one. You're not gonna hit full.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, also, if you were
I'm just trying to think
constantly-
of like.
Plus, it's more than that with the height. But
you probably want to hit more than one creature on the first hit, and then at least one creature from that point forward.
Yeah, so you were going
and
to.
I think 10-foot radius would obviously be easier. Anything smaller would be easier.
I'm almost thinking 5-foot radius. Just make it like a 10-foot like circle, because just for maneuverability's sake.
Yeah, I feel...
then you could hit 2 creatures with it, but like more than likely you're only hitting 1, and then you can move it kind of onto other people, and it makes it easier to place around your allies.
Yeah.
My only problem making it a 10-foot square is that now the idea of it being a storm feels less correct.
Yeah, that's why I
changed the name from Storm. Storm was the next from Cloud.
Listen, I will fight for this. I will fight for this name.
You could just call it Cloud of Wounding. And like it would still make sense. It would still like follow from Cloud of Daggers. And it would still make sense. So if you made it like a 10-foot cube, I think that would work. I think a 10-foot cube is maneuverable. You can usually find
hit 2 people.
You could definitely hit 2 people, and then maybe 4, up to 4. And I think at that point, if you get a 10-foot cube, I think it would also make sense to keep it at 12d4 then as well, just because it would feel less likely that you would hit as many creatures. Because like with an AoE spell that hits multiple targets, you're like, well, we want to make sure that this does a lot of damage, or not too much damage. But with it being a 10-foot cube, you want to make it a little bit better, even if the caster feels like they have to use it against one target.
Yeah, and my idea on it was mainly, I guess, that you would get one target in it, but I made it a big area because it was supposed to be a storm.
Yeah. I wanted to check some. Oh, I remember.
Do you think 30 feet high is still good, or should I make that lower?
30 feet high seems kind of irrelevant. I feel like the height is almost like how often it's going to be useful.
I make it 60 feet, then you could flying creatures.
Just like a column of daggers.
Yeah, I mean, you could hit flying people. You could put it in the air anyway. So
yeah, I was saying 10-foot cube, as in that would be all of its sides.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
And a cube would be easier than like a sphere, for instance, to like move around.
Oh, so just entirely. Gotcha.
One thing that I would probably change, I know that you probably got this from the item, but the 1d4 necrotic damage, I would probably just make it slashing damage still. I know it's like bleeding damage, but I think when it comes to like weapons doing bleeding damage, I think it makes sense for them to be the same type of damage as like the initial damage. And also, it will be resisted less. Because magical slashing damage is like resisted by nothing.
That's fair. I'm not. It is on the item, but I also like the idea of it because it's stopping the healing. And making it slashing damage made it weird to stop the healing. I mean, I guess it's just the effect of the spell. So,
well, it's not even just that. Like, I would say it makes sense because you're just bleeding so profusely that it stops it. I think like there's this weird conception in D&D that like only magic can like stop healing because magic cures wounds, but like that's not necessarily the case. Like, cure wounds can't reattach limbs, for instance, right? And limbs are detached by non-magical attacks. And I think it should really be untyped damage. While I agree in that there actually is precedent in 5e to do that, I think it's fine to be slashing damage.
You with your untyped damage, Adam.
I think it makes sense to be untyped if you just said 1d4 damage. I just know that while I definitely agree that it could be untyped, people would just say there's no such thing as untyped damage, and we'll have to have that argument again. It's like, oh no, well actually, if you look at the Bearded Devil, there's not,
I like the thought of it being necrotic, but your point of it being resisted less, I like more. So, because I do want it to be more useful, and it's fair that like either you can consider it yourself as like the wounds are stopping your healing because you're wounded, or just they're magical wounds. So
Yeah, they're magical wounds.
so
Um,
I'd find it changing that to slashing.
yeah. As for that, I guess that makes sense. I was thinking because it would take your action to move this,
Yeah, it does take
um,
an act.
which
A
I
lot
think
of
is fair with the amount of damage it does.
Yeah.
If you want to be able to repeatedly do 12d4, you should have
Yeah.
to use your action to do it. If it
Yeah.
were less, because I know that a lot of people complain about Cloud Daggers, because it takes your action to move
Yeah.
it, and like the damage seems underwhelming for that. I think this one makes sense. I think a consistent 4 or 12d4 is good.
Plus the additional effects that you get with it if you are like having them wounded with it is nice to be able to spend your action doing.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have to say about this one. I think it's a really sensible upgrade. The only other thing I would add is probably making a Bard and Warlock spell just like Cloud of Daggers is.
Yeah, I said I added Warlock last minute, but I will
I
add
missed
Bard.
that. Just so it's the same classes. I think for all of these, we should probably give them to the classes that get them.
Yeah, that's fine.
I say that, but for one of mine, I actually didn't do that. But I did it for a very specific reason. And I'll
fucking
explain.
nerd.
My one thing for when we are like going to post this, I do want to keep Dagger in the name just because of the damages.
Oh,
if
sure.
possible. So we can come up with a different name to replace
Dagger,
Storm, but
Dagger, Cloud, Storm of.
We could just call it Storm of Daggers. I mean that. Yeah, I know it's not a huge thing, but like I don't know, it's fine. Cloud to Storm seems like an upgraded word. Maybe there's another word for storm we can find that seems less epic, I guess. Just because of how small it is. We could do literally anything, actually.
Good, yeah, anything that we want. There's nothing stopping us.
We can figure that out later. I would like to move on because we have spent quite a bit of time on this one, and there's quite a few to go through.
Sounds good.
Alrighty. Well, so here's the one that I changed the class list on. Alright, so I'll start with mine. Actually, quick recap of what we want to do with this one. Basically just change its size to a 10-foot cube, give it the same class list, and change the damage type for the wound to slashing. And that's it, actually.
Yep. I did those on my document, so you can take it from there if you need to.
Alright, so my first spell is Find Hazards, based on the Find Traps spell. Why? Because Find Traps is garbage, and it's a huge, huge problem for new players who read it and think it does something that it doesn't actually do. And even if it does the thing that they think it does, you can tell them, for, clarification, what Find Traps does is it tells you all the traps that are in line of sight. The problem is that if you're already suspicious enough that there might be traps, just make a check, like a perception check or investigation check. You don't need to cast a spell to do that. Flurry of Daggers is really good.
But Shawn, you could fail your check.
Yep, and I guess in that case, it's worth your 1 of 15 ranger spells to do it.
Yup. Yup.
Especially at low level where it's like, because you get it at 5th, you could get it at 5th level, and I think you have like 4 fucking spells you can know at that level. It's awful. This is what I did with Find Traps. I turned it into Find Hazards, and that'll become relevant in a moment when I read it. You sense the presence of any hazard within range. A hazard, for the purpose of the spell, includes anything that would inflict a sudden or unexpected effect you consider harmful or undesirable. Thus, the spell would sense any area affected by an alarm spell, a glyph of warning, a mechanical trap, pit trap, a natural weakness in the floor, an unstable ceiling, a hidden sinkhole, etc. You learn the distance and direction of each hazard and the general nature of the danger posed by the hazard you sense. This is almost exactly the text for Find Traps. I just get rid of the parts that say it must be within line of sight, that it has specifically a trap intended to hurt. So I included things like natural hazards as well. And that you learn the distance and direction, because you don't actually learn that with traps. You just know they're there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The other thing I did was I made it 1 level higher, because I think that being able to learn the distance direction of all hazards with 120 feet is pretty good. What I did do though is I removed the cleric and druid from the classes that can learn it. First of all, because I don't think those classes
Weird
even
classes.
should learn it in the first place. I don't think those
Yeah.
should get find traps. I really think the only class that should get this spell, find trap spell, is ranger. And if you're some weirdo homebrewer, maybe a rogue, but you'd have to work some system to give a rogue a spell. So I changed it to just ranger because I think just the ranger should get this spell.
Does the wizard not get find traps?
No, they do. I just don't think that cleric and druid do, because if they get it and they're prepared casters, it makes the ranger getting it even less valuable.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
like the one class that really should be taking a spell like this.
Well, that's why I was asking if the wizard got it, because the wizard
Oh
got
no,
it.
the wizard does not get it. Sorry, I misheard you. It's only the druid, ranger, and cleric.
Weird.
Gotcha.
I could see the wizard getting this.
I could see the wizard getting it. One thing that I don't like is the full classes getting it, because a third level slot to those classes means nothing. And all three of those classes prepare spells. And I really want this to be valuable to the ranger, because it really should be one of the ranger spells, just like a smite to the paladin, or just like snare. I think is a ranger only spell. It might be a wizard spell also. And that spell also sucks, but at least it's a spell that's identifiable to just the ranger.
Why does the ranger get so many spells for them that
Hunter's
just
Mark.
suck?
They get Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark is the big ranger spell.
The artificer also gets snare off top.
The artificer does get a couple of like
and wizard.
The wizard does get it. Okay, well, whatever.
So for this, I love it. This seems like a perfect change. And I don't understand why cleric druid get that either. That's a weird.
It's very strange to me. The strangest thing about it to me is that the spell explicitly explicitly excludes natural hazards. And that would be the thing that I think druid should be able to sense. But that's not what it is. It's specifically things that are tempered to cause harm. They're meant to be, I don't know, it's very strange.
For me, this spell would be a spell that I would have to see in action, like seeing it in gameplay, where it was probably where I would be able to get a good judge of how I truly feel about this spell. I think overall the spell I think it's good. I think it does what Find Trap should do, and thus but also this could you could still have this if Find Traps did exactly what it's supposed to do. You could have this be an upgraded version of Find Traps by tweaking some things around. Oh yeah, you can see an outline of magical traps, or
you could, but that's tweaking it.
Right, but I'm saying if Find Traps work the way it should work, which is how this spell should work. Is exactly how this spell works.
The one thing with this spell is I think that this would end up being less of an upgrade and more of a why would you ever get Find Traps instead of this?
I agree,
even if it is one level lower. But
I agree. Well, there's two reasons for that. One, Find Traps would still be useful for the druid and cleric because they can prepare it and they get it at 3rd level.
True.
Whereas the ranger has to wait till 5th level to get the spell that I think should be one of their identifying spells.
This ends up being useful longer too, especially with being able to get the natural weaknesses and stuff like that, and the sinkholes and unstable stuff. Looking at the 3rd level ranger spells, this really is a spell that would be considered if you're looking at spells that you would take as a ranger for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And a big thing about this, one of the biggest differences between this spell and Find Traps, one of the things that makes this definitely stronger is the fact that you can sense hazards with 120 feet of view that you cannot see. That is, or I should say, in line of sight. Sometimes in very niche situations, when you fail your check, for instance, or if, for instance, a hazard isn't reachable, but you still want to see if it's a hazard, then find traps can be useful in those situations. Can be useful. The problem is that you still don't learn the distance and direction, right? You don't learn where these things are. So if you find an alarm spell within range, you don't know where the alarm spell is. You just know that it is there. And that is big. If you go into like the front door of a dungeon and just cast a spell, you learn pretty much every fucking trap in the place. You would have to be able to track that as a player in some way, though, because your DM can tell you the direction. But as you travel the dungeon, you lose track of where that actually is.
Yeah, and then you would have to cast it. And even that, to me, sounds like worth using a spell slot. And as a DM, you're putting things in there that now they're using a spell slot for, which is just more like wearing them down, which is what you're supposed to do through something like that.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why I didn't want to give it to the cleric and druid, because third level spell slots, by the time that rangers get their third level spell slots, they have plenty of, and it's less of a hit to them. Which is why I didn't want it to give it. I don't think they should be able to spam it. To a ranger, it's a valuable choice still, but it is a pretty strong choice that they have to make. Like, is it worth learning all the things within 120 feet? It very well could be, especially if you're going to a place you expect to be very dangerous. But yeah.
I love this as just an upgrade and different spell in general. I would probably replace Find Traps in most of my games with this.
I probably would too. I think Find Traps is an issue.
I think so. One of my most surprised things when I first looked at Find Traps, when I first started playing, was I expected it to work more like Detect Magic, but for trap, where it was like a concentration thing that as you went through, which even makes more fucking sense, because then you're like, if you get hit by a trap while you're using Find Traps and you lose concentration, but like an instantaneous thing where you can't even, it doesn't do anything, it feels like.
Yeah.
It really doesn't feel like there's ever a good place to use it.
Yeah. Because, as I said earlier, you use Find Traps when you fail your check, but when you use Find Traps, you must now still make a check to find the actual trap. So it doesn't even, it just lets you know that it's worth checking more, I guess.
Yeah, like, if you're skeptical already, that, like...
yeah. Like, it's a very frustrating spell. But
I do like the idea of somebody playing a character and them just straight up lying about like having Find Traps, and they're like, oh yeah, I cast Find Traps, and then they're like, yeah guys, there's no traps here, none at all, and then a party member like falls into a trap or some shit. I don't know, I find that just kind of funny.
Sure. It'd be funny for a second.
That would be funny if you cast Find Traps and they fall into like a sinkhole. It's like, well, how did you not know it was there? It's like, it's not a trap, dude. It's just a natural occurrence. Anyway, I think that's enough of this spell and ragging on Find Traps.
Yeah.
We can move on to the next thing, which again is just basically an edit to the text of an existing spell. So this is Greater Faerie Fire. 1 action, 60 foot. Big change. It's a 40-foot cube instead of a 20-foot cube. 3rd level instead of 1st, which Faerie Fire is. Each object in a 40-foot cube within range is outlined in a blue, green, or violet light. Your choice. The area extends into the ethereal plane. That's the new thing. And or into the overlapping plane if you cast a spell while in the ethereal plane. So just, covering the bases. Any creature in the area must make a save or be covered in light. And you can designate any number of creatures you can see to be unaffected by the spell. So if you're with your party in the ethereal plane by some means, you don't reveal them to other creatures if you don't want to. So it's another little quality of life thing, which Faerie Fire doesn't let you do. If you have a party member of yours who's invisible, you can hit them by accident. For the duration, objects and affected creatures shed dim light as usual, but any such object or creature can be perceived and affected by other creatures, objects, or effects from both planes. So essentially takes the creature and makes them exist in both planes simultaneously. So like if, for instance, you're fighting a hag or a creature who's using blink, which is relevant because we do have that coming up later, you can hit them with this and then they lose the benefits of being in that plane and your party can still affect them as normal. So yeah, it's basically just like I would consider the logical leap from normal Fairy Fire to a better version of Fairy Fire.
I think this is also beautifully done. I don't think there's really. I don't have many gripes with Fairy Fire. I think I like it the way it is. So like, this doesn't fully change my idea of Fairy Fire, but I think that you're right in like the little added aspects of like being able to choose your targets, the bigger range, and the planes thing is really cool. I would have a hard time like figuring that out myself, but like I I think this is this is kind of what I really imagined for the better versions of spells would be like, where it's actually like what the spell does, but just improved in these nice
Yeah.
ways that you want it to be improved.
Almost as if like you're a spellcaster who has like honed their craft in that spell.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's nice. I think for the most part, I might have a hard time taking Greater Fairy Fire. Uh, just because I think there's a lot of really good concentration spells starting at 3rd level.
I know.
And I think that is part of what makes that's what makes Fairy Fire like one of those things that kind of you kind of like think, I don't know if I want to use it because I want to concentrate on something else. But I think this does do a really good job of being that better version, that upgraded version. Uh, I think the ethereal plane and the the both affecting 2 planes at once. I think that's very interesting to kind of think about, because a lot of specters, ghosts, that type of thing, they exist in the ethereal plane. So it kind of brings up this idea of uh a bard is like heard of like ghost stories over and over, and they're like, okay, well, I want to be able to do something for
Mhm.
that. A druid knows that there's a grove that's haunted and they need to clear it out. Okay, I'm going to prepare this spell. So it's one of those things for where it's so small, and it's very situational when this will actually affect. But it's so cool to think about like the lore that you can add to some like two spells like this just by simply bumping it up. Like when we
Yep.
going to invisibility for just a quick example. Oh, what a novel idea. You just don't want to be seen. That's perfectly fine. But then there's people out there like, wait, I want to be able to do things though and still not be seen. And so they hone their craft and figure that out.
It
So I
becomes
think it's
invisible. Yeah. That's exactly one of the things, because you hit it right on the nail. And there I don't think that Greater Fairy Fire is as appealing for a 3rd level spell as Fairy Fire is as a 1st level spell. I think a lot of the time there are probably better things you could do with the 3rd level slot, and it is a big investment. Because if you think about Fairy Fire as only a combat spell, specifically Greater Fairy Fire, what benefits am I getting from Greater Fairy or Fairy Fire that I'm not getting from Fairy Fire? Well, it's the etherealness. How often is that going to come up? I don't know. And the being able to choose targets. How
And the
often?
bigger radius for me.
The bigger radius is huge, because it's less guessing about where the creature is. And not being able to choose creatures helps because it doesn't give enemies advantage against your allies. Um, but
Yeah.
but I could see someone saying, yeah, but I still would rather have lightning bolt or fly, because they're only thinking about the very obvious use cases. But as
Mhm.
Justin pointed out, Greater Fairy Fighter actually opens up potentially a bunch of different hooks you could follow, or that the DM could set up, for instance, where it's
True.
like I could go to a place that's not necessarily a combat place and use this to like just actually interact with like undead beings and other planes, like ghosts and stuff. And I think that's an interesting social aspect that the spell allows you to do that's not combat, that isn't really achievable by any other spells, um, at their level anyway. You kind of have to wait till like etherealness or true seeing to do that, which are high level spells.
Personally, for me, even just the increased radius and the choosing targets is enough for me to pick this at thirst level to want to use on stuff, because you can give advantage like to a larger area and you don't have to worry about your allies. To me, that is something that I
That is
immediately would look
massive.
at and be like, this is
yeah.
you.
This is a
That is massive. It's kind of like bless, but for like your whole party and only for attack rolls, but still.
I mean, that would be like Crusader's Mantle. Oh no, wait, Crusader's Mantle is different because it lets all your party members do a D4 radiant damage. But funny enough, Crusader's Mantle is actually the upgraded version of Divine Favor, because Divine Favor only lets the Paladin add a D4 radiant damage to all their attack rolls, but Crusader's Mantle lets any non-hostile creature in a 30-foot radius add a D4 to their attack roll or to their damage rolls.
Another
Excuse me.
example. Another
Yeah.
example of upgraded spells. We need more of these things.
Well, I love this spell, but what is this? What is this next monster of a spell?
Yeah, what the fuck?
So this is a 9th level spell. This is an upgraded version of Telekinesis, called Force of Mind. It's for the sorcerer and wizard, just like Telekinesis. It has a range of 120 feet, which is greater than Telekinesis, I believe. Telekinesis is 60 feet. And this has a couple of neat things going on. First of all, you could hold it for an hour versus 10 minutes. So, what are the things that are different here? Well, this first paragraph is entirely new. Well, the first sentence isn't, but the second sentence is. For the duration, you gain a bonus equal to your spell casting ability modifier to your AC and to attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws using your strength, dexterity, and constitution. So all physical saves, ability checks, and attack rolls, you can add your spellcasting modifier. So you're essentially using your mental ability to hone your physical abilities. Then, just like Telekinesis, when you cast a spell and as an action on each round for the duration, you can exert your will on one creature or any number of objects, which is different from Telekinesis because only one object Telekinesis. That you can see within range, causing the appropriate effect below based on whether it's a creature or an object. And then the last sentence, if you switch your focus from one creature to another creature, the prior creature is no longer affected by the spell. That's changed from one target to another target with Telekinesis. So this only cares about if you're changing from target to target, because now it lets you target multiple objects at once as opposed to one at a time. So, the effect on a creature. I'm just going to read the whole paragraph. You could try to move a creature. Make an ability check with your spellcasting ability, contested by your creature's strength or charisma check. Your choice. You choose whether they use their strength or charisma to contest it. If you win the contest, you move the creature in any direction, including upward, including beyond the range of the spell. So you can move them further than 120 feet if you want to. The distance you can move a creature depends on its size. You can move a gargantuan creature up to 15 feet, and you can move a smaller creature twice as far for each size it is smaller than gargantuan, up to 420 feet for a tiny creature.
You have 480. Is that supposed to be right?
Oh, 480 feet. Sorry. I don't know why I said 20. I was, got things on the mind. Until the end of your next turn, the creature cannot move or teleport while they're in your telekinetic grip and has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks it makes, and attack rolls made against the creature have advantage. So basically the restrained condition, but not called restrained. So it still affects creatures that are immune to restrained condition. A creature lifted upward is suspended in midair, and a creature can force a repeat to the ability check contest as an action, and they escape your grip on success. That's different from Telekinesis, where they can freely do it every round. In this case, they have to use their action to escape. Objects. This is where the spell gets even more fiddly. You can try to move an object that weighs up to 520,000 pounds versus 1,000 pounds for Telekinesis. If the object isn't being worn or carried, you can automatically move it 30 feet in any direction, even beyond the range of the spell. And then that weight is reduced by a factor of 8 for every weight less. For every weight 8 times is less, the distance you can move it is doubled. Just like with the sizes of creatures. But you can move more than one. I'm skipping a couple paragraphs to the bottom here. you can move more than one creature or object at a time. Oh no, this is the next paragraph. My mind is all over the place right now. You can target multiple objects. You treat their combined weight as one, and the speed at which you can move one object depends on the total amount of weight you have in your grip at once. Now I'm skipping 2 paragraphs because the next 2 paragraphs are just what's in Telekinesis. You can use a creature or object you have in your telekinetic grip as a ram. If you move a ram into a target space, you can make a melee spell attack. On a hit, both the target and the ram take 8d6 bludgeoning damage, or bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, whichever is appropriate. If you make this attack, you cannot move the ram again until the end of the current turn. If you control more than one object, then you can move multiple rams over many spaces at once. However, you only make one attack roll no matter the number of targets chosen. And you can end your grip on a target at any time, no action required. So this is an incredibly fiddly spell.
Yeah.
But it is a 9th level spell, and I suspect that people who are playing 9th level spellcaster or characters who cast 9th level have the patience to read a whole effect. Or at least they should, in my opinion.
There's a lot of spells.
And honestly, it's not that much more fiddly than the original Telekinesis spell.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 9th level spells that have like a chunk of text. I mean, the fucking wish spell.
True Resurrection, True Polymorph, Wish,
Storm of Vengeance.
Storm of Vengeance, Shape Change, all has a shit ton of text.
So I mean, this does have a lot. And honestly, it is fiddly because you like this is what everybody wishes they could do with like telekinesis. Like I want to fucking honestly. I want to force choke somebody. This way, I pretty much can.
I guess I guess you could kind of technically.
You could like force pull and push, like you're fucking lifting up like huge ass boulders and throwing them at people. Like
that's the big thing. You are Star Killer with this spell essentially.
Well, maybe not quite Star Killer, but you're close.
Obviously not at you. You are you're Magneto in First Class, where he moves like the satellite.
Yeah.
But for anything, not just metal. So this is incredibly fiddly. Basically the things that were added were the first paragraph effect, being able to move multiple objects at once, and being able to ram things. And other than that, just the size and movement of things were like modified.
I do like, because when I first saw concentration up to an hour, I'm like, ooh, I'm always concerned with concentration spells at 9th level. Because they are like that is a you get one of these, just one, and if you drop concentration, you lose a ton of value as opposed to a lot of other spells.
But that bonus to your Constitution saves is pretty nice.
Exactly. That's where I was going with it. You essentially give yourself proficiency in these saving throws because, again, assuming you're this high of level, you have probably maxed out your spellcasting modifier. Your dex might be a little bit better. So you might just be a little bit harder to hit.
Hey, if you're the halfling wizard and you're riding on the Goliath paladin as a mount, and you have Warcaster, you're basically not failing your fucking concentration checks for this spell. Unless you hit by something really gnarly. But yeah, that was definitely an intentional design choice. I could have made it non-concentration, but I was like, no, I think there's a lot here that warrants it. I think especially the being able to grapple or restrain a creature without restraining them by technicality is pretty big. In that every attack roll they make is disadvantage and every attack roll against them has advantage. I think that's a huge effect against like a boss monster who's normally immune to restrain. And it's definitely worth trying to keep your concentration on a spell that does that.
This is one of those spells that would feel really good against a Tarask.
It would, yeah.
Because you can say, all right, listen, Tarask, we're just gonna move you up into the air here. You just stay put, please. We're gonna figure this out. Like, it is a very cool spell. Now, preventing from teleporting, that's something for where I'm a little
I
for where
love
I'm
it.
just
I love
I
it. I love
I
that you
love
keep
it.
adding prevention from teleporting on things.
I love it, but also I'm like very
No,
concerned
fuck you.
about it.
Perfect.
I like the prevention from teleport because obviously it's foreshadowed in the fact that you can make it a charisma check. This isn't just you, like, this telekinesis goes beyond the physical. This is you
Yeah.
affecting
Yeah.
reality, essentially. I think it just makes sense. Like, for instance, a Jedi, or let's say Darth Vader tries to force choke Palpatine. He's gonna have a hard time. Not because Palpatine
Yeah.
is a physically powerful guy, because he's so force powerful. So I think it's appropriate that that ability has interaction with the magical as well. So I like it being like the I wanted this to be the
You know what?
ultimate lockdown spell. There's no lockdown spell that's stronger than this. If you want to lock down a creature, there's nothing
You've
better than this spell.
you've swayed me. You've swayed me. I'll admit you've. All right, I no longer care about that. Maybe it's because maybe it's because I love teleporting so much. But you know what? You've swayed
Teleporting
me.
is nice.
That is fucking insanely cool.
It would be frustrating if, say, you had a high level caster as your BBAG and you did it at the party. Especially if the party's trying to break their concentration, they have like a plus like 20 to their save.
Jesus,
They
yeah.
have like a 30 intelligence or something.
You have to. You essentially are gonna have to fucking like, I don't know, dispel this, cast like dispel magic.
Dispelling is a really good avenue to stop this. Actually, that's probably the strongest way of stopping this, other than just counterspelling it from the forefront.
Yeah.
But if you're fighting a monster that you know has high level spells, you're probably waiting to counterspell like a teleportation or a pyro word kill or something like that. You're probably not expecting to have to counterspell a telekinesis spell.
I like this all around. Basically, my only question was going to be the damage based on the objects, but then you answered it at the end, so I don't really have an issue with this one. I mean, it's 9th level spell. It does do a lot of shit, but I don't think this is outrageous in any point. I mean, 9th level spells are, but like
they are outrageous
for a 9th level spell. I don't think this is pushing it. I think it's a really cool like idea to think about your character doing, especially the like addition to AC attacks, abilities, all your strength. Like you just become a force because of your mind power.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
It's a shame Adam's not here because I know Adam would be really thrilled to go over this with a fine-tooth comb and really be able to like pull out and like pick and point out the things that Zach and I might not like pick up because we don't I don't, at least I'll speak for myself. I know that I don't really look at telekinesis because I'm just like, it's an okay spell, but like I'm never probably gonna pick it up.
I don't know what really you would pick out of this fine tune, like maybe the numbers, but like I trust his numbers. He's a numbers guy. Like that's a lot.
He's a numbers guy.
You speaking about the numbers, the number.
What do they mean, Mason?
So basically, what I did for the object's weight was I said, "How heavy is a blue whale?" And a blue whale is about 190 tons. And if you take 190 tons, it's about 500,000 pounds. It's like, you should be able to lift a blue whale with this spell. Done.
Yeah.
Because you can already lift gargantuan creatures with the spell. And I was like, you should be able to do something proportionally as good with objects. What can that be? 512,000 pounds makes perfect sense. Which is part of the reason why I think that that telekinesis misses the mark. You can move huge creatures with telekinesis, but you can only do a pound up to 1,000 pounds. That's half a ton. Elephants are multiple tons heavy. You should be able to lift an elephant. If you can lift an elephant telekinesis, you should be able to lift something that's like, how heavy are elephants? Like 5 tons.
Yeah, about 5.
More.
About 5 to 10
That's 10,000 pounds right there. Why can't you do that? Why can't you do that, wizards?
Because wizards are weak. Now, if you give this to a sorcerer, nah.
But yeah.
Now I'm just
and
imagining.
the big thing with the numbers, I know a lot of people will say the numbers like, oh, you gotta calculate the weight. It's like, you already gotta do a telekinesis. Like, a lot of this is hand waving by the DM anyway. It's the DM going,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I guess it's like 500,000 pounds. You can lift it, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
unless the table's really like looking it up, and if they're the type of table who's gonna look it up, they're gonna appreciate the hard numbers that are there. Like, okay, it's between 64K and 8K, so you can move this 60 feet. And it's like, perfect, thank you. I have an actual answer to my question. Because it is weird, the fact with telekinesis, you can move something 30 feet, regardless if it's 1,000 pounds or 1 pound. And it's like, seems kind of weird to have that. Like, anyway.
I think there isn't much fine tooth combing to go through with this because it's a 9th level spell. Even if it isn't upgraded from telekinesis,
you can make a life. You can make life with the 9th level spell. Like, you literally can turn a pebble into like a young dragon. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Now I'm just thinking about using this on like a brontosaurus or a T-Rex, just like watching this gargantuan.
Think about using an Endangering.
Yeah, dude, he said fucking blue whale. You want to know what my mind jumped to? The heaviest land animal to ever exist.
You can do it on gargantuan creatures.
Yeah, like a brontosaurus.
You could do it on any creature, but only objects that weigh up to 520 or 512,000 pounds.
Did you choose all VS spells on purpose?
I did not.
Didn't want to worry about materials.
No, I did a similar tactic to Justin, where the first 2 spells I found by just going alphabetically through.
That's how I found
and somehow I landed on 2 spells that start with the letter F. I don't know how that happened. I did intentionally choose very low level spells for the first 2.
Mhm.
And then for the last one, I was like, I want to do like a big increase. What's a stronger spell? So I went for 5th level, and I went to 9th. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on here, just so we can get things rolling. Onto Justin's spells.
Man, this is a real bad time to have to go to the bathroom, but you know what? I can hold it. So I'm gonna say this right now.
We could do Adams first if you want.
Nope.
Okay.
So preface, I didn't do a good job with the names. I was gonna leave that out there. Sensory Alarm, which is the upgraded version to Alarm.
Okay.
4th level Abjuration, belonging to Rangers and Wizards.
And Artificers.
Did not know that, so added to Artificers. Casting time, changed from 1 minute to 1 hour. No ritual.
No ritual. Interesting. Okay.
I doubled the range, but I think the range should be bigger.
Okay.
Anyways, components are the same. Duration until dispelled. You set an alarm against an unwanted intrusion. Choose a small building, large tower, or an area within range that is no larger than 100 foot. Until the spell ends, an alarm alerts whenever a tiny or larger creature touches or enters the warded area. When you cast a spell, you can also designate creatures that won't set off the alarm. You also choose whether the alarm is mental or audible. I forgot to add one more thing into this, but I will say that at the end. A mental alarm alerts you with a ping in your mind if you are on the same plane of existence as the warded area. You can choose to have this ping awaken you if you are sleeping. So normally, the ping will awake you if you're sleeping regardless. This just kind of allows you to, when you're sleeping, you hear the ping, and then you're like, okay, I'm not going to let it wake me up. And I just go back to sleep.
It's a great quality of life.
An audible alarm produces the sound of a...
Justin, you realize, as the caster, you could just go back to bed, right? Like, it's not going to break your long rest to wake up to the spell.
Listen, semantics, okay?
Wake up.
An audible alarm produces the sound of a large bell for 1 minute within 1 mile. You can choose to make the bell stop early. There's supposed to be another clause that states, whenever you cast the spell again, you can only have 1 sensory alarm placed at a time. So the idea behind this spell is essentially to make an entire building, or make like a large tree house or a sacred like nature grove. Make it so that way you know if somebody has been there. And obviously if you put this on a building in a very crowded area, it's probably gonna go off a lot. But if it's like if it's your
go off a lot, that'd be terrible. What was that last thing that you added at the end? Sorry.
That if you can only have one sensory alarm placed at a time. If you were to place it on a new structure, the previous one ends.
Fuck that. Take that off. Just leave
You
it the
just
way
want-
it is.
You just want
I'm finding a very hard time finding uses for this besides if you get a keep.
I mean, yeah, but also I like the idea of players having, houses and lives. Like,
My problem
It-
with this is, first of all, I agree with that statement. I think it is a little bit.
It's definitely an
bit-
upgrade.
It's a little bit under. It's definitely an upgrade. It's unarguably an upgrade. I
Yeah.
just don't know if I would ever take a spell at 4th level for this effect. And I was thinking of, because I know the Hollow spell and Forbiddance kind of do similar sorts of stuff. I think Forbiddance is a limited duration though. Hollow I think might be until dispelled, but Hollow's
Forbiddance is
also
24 hours.
specifically for
Hollow
it's 20, yeah, it is until dispelled, but it is casting time 24 hours.
It also has material components, costly material components.
Yeah. I'm just saying that they're similar kinds of effects at similar-ish levels, but they are for different classes, and they are for specific kinds of effects. Whereas this is like, Alarm is probably the most vanilla of those types of effects, and this is just like the upgrade to that. What I would probably do if I really wanted like an upgraded version of Alarm is pretty much everything that you have here, except instead of having Alarm go off, you as the caster get a mental description of the entry that occurred.
That's
And
I did think about that. I honestly I probably should have thought about it more after I realized the classes that had it, because my thought process is, if you know you have sensory alarm, you're gonna want something that you can be able to look back to see instantly. So I thought about maybe adding a little bit of a clause that like allows you to like become blind and deaf, and then see where see.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, I think an effect one that tells you like the description of the entry, not necessarily the description of the creature, but like, oh, this door's been open, here's what it looked like. And so like if a creature's invisible, you don't actually see them. But also the ability to like always look at a specific location no matter what. I think those would be very sensible, especially since it's an effect that goes off as long as you're on the same plane of existence, which I don't think is necessary. I think you should just be able to do it always, because like it's such a niche thing. You really don't need the additional limitation of it being only on the same plane of existence. So like, I think if you added those two effects, it might. I think it might be good.
Yeah. I think if you maybe you could choose to either have the spell give you a description of like not what the creature is, but like the size of the creature maybe, or like something like that, or you can choose to like look at the location. Like when it goes off, you can choose to immediately when it goes off, you can into your head to look at what is happening.
Yeah, I would like that.
Because then if it is an invisible creature, you don't see the invisible creature, but you do see where it came from. And you could choose to just get a description of it. Like if it goes off like in a combat and you don't want to like take the however long it would take to really quickly look like in like maybe a full turn.
Yeah.
Then you could just like get a description of what the creature is. But that would have to be like more specifically worded.
It's worth noting that most low-level spells only allow effects on the same visit. Yes, but when it comes to like low-level spells that affect like stuff like that, say like Find Familiar, for instance, for the Warlock, they get an invocation which allows them to do stuff in the same plane of existence. Part of that's because of how low level you must be. This is going to be 7th level for the Wizard and fucking
even this way late as the Ranger.
Yeah.
And I think at that point it's fair. Also, the effect is incredibly innocuous. I think, like, for instance, as a comparison, scrying. Scry. Let me check. Does scrying let you check on creatures that aren't on the same plane of existence? I'm pretty sure it does.
I think you have to make a check similar to like the sending spell. Like you have to make you have to make a D100 roll.
No, it's same plane of existence. It is same plane of existence for scrying, but scrying lets you check on any creature, any location. This effect lets you check one spot, and you can only have one such spot at a time. So I think it doesn't break anything if it's actually anywhere, right?
I would maybe add an area that you are familiar with within range is where you can cast this, because you don't want to be able to like be in like the evil person's area and like spend an hour casting this and then like be able to in a 200-foot cube anywhere be able to like see it, creatures around you.
That is an interesting thing, though. If you were able to get into like the BBEG's like lair or like one of their like bases or something, and you are then able to kind of do this, that is an interesting. That's an interesting way of handling of like utilizing the spell.
You
There's a
could
lot
have
of
stuff. You could have stuff. You could have it be like if the area has like the forbidden spell or hollow, which are the spells that like stop things like this from happening in certain areas. You could have this be one of the spells that are affected by that. Also, at that point,
points for creativity.
one interesting thing about this is that we're getting to hit a spot. It's like this is more abjuration or divination. I would probably say it's still abjuration just because it's a specific spot. But no, what I would say in that situation perhaps is make it so that you will have to have seen all of the areas that you want to affect. So like you can't just
that's
go
what
into,
I mean.
You can't just go into the enemy's lair and then cast it and now you have the whole layout.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Or like even if you're like somewhat outside of it or something like that, and then because 200 feet, quite like a little bit big. Like if you're just like outside and you cast it, and then suddenly you have this 200-foot cube that anytime creatures walk by, you can just instantly see them.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I think that's a fair workaround. You know, like you have to be able, and that was part of like I guess when I was making the spell, I mentally imagined like somebody, you know, during the cast time, they like are actively going around the entire area, like making it.
Hooten's Hill, by the way, or our Huts on Hill, Hut on's Hill, Hut and Shill, could be anything. I'm gonna call you Hut. Hut makes it a point that familiar is not very specific. Absolutely agree, but Hut is fine. But Wizards loves that word for some reason. So
yeah, it is.
Unfortunately,
it is a
tons of precedents for it.
I would add both. Just like
by the way, thanks for popping in. I saw that you on Reddit today, so it's cool that you popped in, and it's cool to have another perspective in the chat. But yeah, I think you're right to be wary about the familiarity of the building, which is why I think only being able to see places or only be able to affect places that you've seen, makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
I agree.
So probably add like a clause that says like you must understand the layout of what you are trying to create like an alarm for, something along those lines. If you guys don't have any more things to mention about it, do you guys have a better spell name? Because I sure as shit don't.
Greater Alarm.
I hate you. Why do you like
Surveillance?
Name suck. Yeah.
His
Surveillance
name sucks. True.
Yeah. I was trying to think. Fuck. What was the one that I thought of another like single word that was like surveillance, but I can't think of it anymore. Well, then I'll go on to my next spell, which is Endangering Presence. This is supposed to be the upgraded version of Bane. Third level enchantment going to clerics and paladins. Casting time of 1 action, range of self. Pretty much all the same exact things as Crusader's Mantle, which takes what I was saying earlier. divine favor,
Uh,
but put it to every non-hostile creature in a 30-foot radius.
so this is Bane, you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
So dark oppressive dark oppressive energy spreads from you in an aura with a 30-foot radius, striking doubt into hostile creatures.
Oh.
Until the spell ends, the aura moves with you centered on you. While in the aura, whenever a hostile creature makes an attack roll or saving throw, must roll a d4 and subtract it from the roll.
No save.
No save. I did think about when I first was putting it in, I did think about that. It is.
I don't know how crazy that is. So this is like an updated version of Bane in a lot of ways. Bane is one cast, all the targets chosen at once.
They make it.
And
They
it's
roll
only 3 creatures.
Yep.
Bane already is only 1 save. There's no repeated save.
Yeah.
So is it too crazy that this is a no save effect? Probably not. I would say
Well,
for
Only
third
for
level
D4,
2,
plus its concentration.
and it's concentration, so the enemy definitely has a way of like countering it. But a D4 off of all enemies' attacks and saving throws is pretty big. Also, why is there less components for this spell than there are for Bane?
Because
This
I
is-
was basing it off of Crusader's Mantle mostly, which Crusader's Mantle because compared
it's just the inverse Crusader's Mantle.
Yeah, I also I was comparing it to Bless at first because I was like, isn't there a spell that's like Bless? Funnily enough, comparing it to Divine Favor, which is again the weaker the like initial version, and then there's Crusader's Mantle. Crusader's Mantle actually drops one of the components, which is the Mantic component, to the spell.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. This isn't Greater
Yeah.
Bane, so it's not that crazy.
Right.
To, like drop a component. This is
Right.
a different spell. It's just a similar effect. It does seem strong to me.
I gotta check
I'm
something
trying
here
to
real
think.
fast.
Let me see.
I feel like
So
by the time a paladin gets this, it's not quite as strong.
Yeah, for a
I was-
paladin, this is nothing, but for a
But
cleric,
for a cleric,
That's
yeah.
what I was getting ready to check because I know that because I forgot to check because I know clerics got a
Crusader's
lot of.
Mantle is only paladin. I would maybe only give this to paladin because then
Well,
I
that's
think
what I'm
it's more
checking. That's what I'm
crazy.
checking real quick because I thought that they gave Crusaders.
Crusader's Mantle is only
They
paladin.
didn't. They didn't. Okay, so we get rid of it. We get rid of it for cleric. Leave it for just paladin. I
Cleric-
thought that.
Clerics of War get Crusader's Mantle.
But that makes sense. The clerics added spells that the cleric got from that were like basically from the paladin spell list are all of the aura spells: aura, vitality, life, and purity. So
Hmm.
I thought that they got Crusader's Mantle. Glad I'm wrong, because that means we can drop this from a cleric, and it's just paladin.
if that's the case, then I feel less crazy about it.
Yeah.
Because a paladin's not going to get until 9th level. A bard, do they get magical secrets at 6th or 10th level? They get it at 10th.
I will let you know here.
I will say this
But it
kind
would
of
be
has
a big investment for the bard to take.
Yeah, I would say this kind of has a similar thing to what we were talking about with the 3rd level concentration spells that exist as well. Like
Yes.
this is strong, but it would be for me kind of difficult to want to take this as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good 3rd level spells that are concentration.
Yeah.
That could be better. But at the same time, this is really fucking good.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. It really is hard to say. I'm trying to find literally any spell that has like these. I know the one that I'm thinking of is anti-life shell. But I'm trying to give any other spell that's like it follows you and then it has a negative effect with no save. Because I'm pretty sure anti-life shell has no save.
No save at all. I can't think of any off the top of my head. There's most of the things that are like this are the aura spells from paladins, and they're for the most part all
I think if
positive benefits.
Change the name to Endangering Aura. Ooh, yeah, I agree with.
Yeah.
I think change this to an aura name is a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we drop all classes but Paladin. This being 3rd level doesn't matter as much. It still matters, but it doesn't matter as much. And I don't think the power of this spell is beyond that of a 3rd level. It is big though.
It is big. That's for sure.
But if it's just on the Paladin, then it's not insane.
It does.
Yeah, my only suggestion would be maybe like, cause I wouldn't want to add the save on it.
Yeah, I thought when I was originally
maybe make it smaller if like this. I feel like this would be something you would have to watch to see if it feels too strong with the no save and everything that's on it. Maybe make the area smaller and it would be
30
okay.
feet is pretty big, and if it's on the Paladin, the Paladin's probably going to be upfront and personal. 10th level. Okay, Bard's gonna be at 10th level, so it wouldn't even be crazy for Bard's to take.
30 feet radius is 60 feet altogether, right?
Yeah, but like because it's centered on you, like it's not like you're able to place it somewhere where you get the most out of the 60 feet. You would choose somewhere to get the most out of it.
So to kind of give another one that's similar to like centered on you, Spirit Shroud from Tasha's 3rd level spell, bonus action available to warlocks. I believe warlocks, wizards, flip back, cleric, paladin, warlock, wizard. Until the spell ends, any attack you make deals 1d8 extra damage when you hit a creature within 10 feet of you. This damage is radiant, necrotic, or cold, your choice when you cast a spell. Any creature that takes this damage can't regain hit points. In addition, any creature of your choice that you see that starts its turn within 10 feet of you has its speed reduced by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. So, nowhere near in terms of like the just passive negative.
I think it's fine. I think it would need to be watched though.
I was thinking about this too, and Hut kind of brought it up. You could have it be that when a creature starts its turn there, enters first time on a turn, they have to make a save, and then once they failed the save, there's no more save. Kind of like just like Bane.
I was thinking about that too when I was typing up the spell. Was like I was trying to figure out how to word it. I was like, so when a creature, I was like, okay, but does that mean if a creature makes the save once, they're always good against it, or is it like?
No, I make them repeat the save
every time you start the turn. There, you would make the save, and if you're already affected, then you don't have to save. I could see that as you could do that.
It would be. It's also nice. It's also nice because
it's necessary. I think it's fine. Personally.
It also wouldn't be too bad because it would probably be a charisma saving throw, and I think that there's something about paladins already, especially with banishment and banishing smite.
Just something about
that. Hud says once you save it for hours. I want to put it on this. I don't like doing that stuff for spells. I feel it doesn't work as well because like in theory you should be able to use a spell twice on the same enemy and it'd be just as effective. Spells I feel personally shouldn't have that sort of limitation. I don't think any spell in the game is like that. At the worst, it would be you're immune until the spell is over. In this case, I would have it pretty much the opposite, where it's when you fail, you keep saving, but once you fail, you are affected for the duration, regardless of whether you're in the aura.
Yes, I was trying to figure out how to like word that, and I was getting a bit frustrated with it, but then I figured I was like, you know what?
Until the spell ends.
Yeah, for the duration.
Yeah.
I think I kind of like that. Like if you have like it's basically a baning aura. A creature starts to turn there, enters there. They make the save, and then they're affected for the duration, like just like Bane.
Yeah.
And I
think
honestly, if you,
I like it. I like it too because I like it too because adding the charisma saving throw back into it. It definitely feels very paladin-y because paladins get banishment and banishing smite, and like those are very like. Those are like those spells for it's like I am banishing evil from here. This kind of gives that like mild version of it, for where it's like my presence here is harmful to to like to this evil that's here or to
one
whatever.
Problem I do have is that every other spell that has the debilitating effect as good as this makes you choose a number of creatures that are affected. Like, for instance, slow, which is 3rd level. Even though it's an area effect, you could still only choose 6 of the creatures in the area. And
Wait, what do you
Bane,
mean?
of course, makes it so you only choose 3.
Oh, I see.
So like if you were the paladin, for instance, and you cast this spell in the middle of like a horde, the DM then has to make a save for every single creature instead of 6 of your choice.
Yeah.
Maybe up to
And
10.
then from that point, track which of the ones have failed for the entirety of the spell's duration. But I think that's also true for like something like Holy Weapon. Because I think
Yeah.
Holy Weapon just affects every creature when it bursts the blindness.
Yes, it does. So I mean, in an instance like that, I mean, in that sort of instance, I think that's where it would really shine to have group up your enemies then, because if you know that your players are going, if your players are facing a horde, you probably should have some type of group, like group A is all of these orcs, group B is all these orcs, just to like kind of simplify that for you. Especially if you know, like, my paladin has used this spell before, they're probably gonna they're really gonna want to use this when they're completely surrounded.
Yeah. No, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. Particularly the fact that, like we were saying, we're making it just a paladin spell. And they won't get until 9th level. And that actually lines up perfectly with like Holy Weapon, which is a save for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not that crazy.
But these are very good points about like, the balances and trying to keep it, is it too much?
Yeah.
And I mean,
another thing is that it continues to affect creatures. It's not just when you first start it.
Yes.
Unlike Bane, which is the whole point.
And honestly, if we are that worried about it, I wouldn't mind if this spell bumped up to 4th. I think it could serve 4th, but then it's.
I mean, yeah, the Baning effect is a good effect. Bane is one of those spells where, because of the way that bounded accuracy works, it's always just as good as it always is.
Yeah.
Well, in theory, it is.
Yeah.
Really, at higher levels, monster attack bonuses are so fucking high. At least boss monsters are so high that they hit most of the time anyway. And a D4 means less to a higher level boss monster than it does to a lower level boss monster.
Yeah, and unless you have like insanely high fucking AC numbers, like 23, like that 1d4 is realistically not gonna affect a boss monster too much at higher levels. It will definitely fuck up his minions.
Yeah, this would fuck up minions hard. And really, AoE effects should fuck up minions hard. This one just fucks up minions hard in a way that's more frustrating to track if you're like a DM who tries to do things as like individually as possible.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure many DMs do. I do sometimes. Slow is 3rd, so I feel like capping it at 6 is a good idea. You could make this a good nerf to say something like when you do the first cast it, or if multiple creatures enter the order at the same time, you don't have enough slots left, you can choose which creatures will affect. The problem I have with choosing is that you can already cast Bane at higher levels and choose more creatures with it.
Yeah.
And
essentially,
a 3rd level Bane lets you choose 5 creatures. I also don't think this effect is as good as the slow effect, so it can afford to affect more creatures. The slow effect is really fucking good, especially against boss monsters, because boss monsters make lots of attacks, and slow prevents them from doing that. I think this is fine as it is, especially if it's just being a paladin spell. I think this is definitely a spell that's going to be controversial. I definitely think it warrants playtesting. Yeah. But I think I'm okay with it as is, with it just being a paladin spell.
Yeah, I like the idea of adding the saves to it.
The one save at the beginning, yeah. The one save at the beginning, I think, is a good call. I think it's too strong as it. I misspoke. It's too strong as is. I think it does warrant a save.
That's fair.
I think it's okay as is. I think it would just be high end.
Yeah, but I think your concerns are definitely warranted, Hut. This is a very good effect. But I think at higher levels it's really good against minions more than bosses. Because like I said, bosses attack bonuses get really high. And save bonuses for that matter.
Yeah.
It will make their weak saves even weaker though, which is a big thing for boss monsters if you know what their weak saves are. But I think we can move on to the next thing. As a wrap up, just adding that save is probably a big important change. I noticed the formatting on this one got fucked up.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. Because I
quick.
changed it to make sure. But pretty much it's just the blink spell as you've come to know and love.
Oh, I didn't see.
I made it. I made the only change that I made to it. I allowed you to upcast at higher levels. When you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th level, or I don't know. Wow, I didn't change the RD to TH.
Third level.
This is what happens when you copy paste stuff, guys. When you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, you can target an additional willing creature within 30 feet of you for every 2 slot levels above 3rd.
Sure.
So
I'm down with that.
I like the fucking hilarious idea of like a warlock. Well, actually, warlocks don't get this.
Hey,
but
sorry, continue.
But I like the idea of just somebody upcasting this and being like, "Hey, do you want to have some fun real quick?" And then you guys are just fucking blinking in and out of existence, kind of causing some like mayhem and confusion on the battlefield. It's a very intriguing thing. I just think that it's fucking cool.
That's a funny thought. Yeah.
If somebody casts this at 9th level, your entire party is just under the effect of the blink.
I had this exact same idea, but for Earthbind.
Oh yeah,
every
Earthbind's
2 levels
a pretty
you
decent
could
one.
pull another creature down.
Yeah.
With Earthbind, I'd be fine with that being one level per creature targeted, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like this. I like honestly just a whole party blinking in and out. It's really fun. That's a really fun idea. I don't know if it needs to be every 2 levels, but like it's fine on the safe side. If your goal ultimately is to have your whole party affected and it costs you a 7th level slot to do that, that doesn't sound that crazy to me. I mean, you could already
I'm not a big fan of the blink spell the way it works.
I think what concerns me is just if a warlock decided, or if a hexblade warlock decided, I'm gonna cast blink at 5th level, and then now 3 of my party members are like,
yeah, but your party's at 9th level at that point, right? And honestly, that, let's be real, having on average only half of your party active at a time could be a bad thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That could be as much of a curse as it is a blessing. Blink is fine on just one creature because having just one person of your party coming in and out, it's good for that creature. It can be beneficial. Having it so that your whole party is half the time not there can be a huge problem, especially if one of those party members is your paladin who's gone for a whole round and you don't have their aura to work with.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's really a problem with this being one creature per level, because it could be as much of a problem as it is a benefit.
Yeah, and I think this is useful though to have it be able to be used on more than yourself, because it would be helpful to be able to cast this on somebody else every once in a while.
Yeah.
All right.
I think once per level is fine. I genuinely don't think. I think a character who wants to cast as a higher level is doing it for the fun of it and not necessarily for any real tactical purposes. The one big benefit this gives is the ability to cast it on someone else who might need it. You're along for the ride no matter what because it's self already. But the ability to be able to cast it on at least one other creature is useful.
Yeah, I think most of the time you're only going to be upcasting this at like 1 level, or in a like off chance that you're like storming a castle where you're being bombarded by arrows and you cast it on like 10 people.
Oh, that's so cool! Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool.
I was gonna bring this up
That's
because
fine.
dropping it down, to just 1 level. That means at casting it at 6th level, you affect, a standard party of 4, yourself and then your 3 allies.
That's
Um,
fine.
the thing that
Okay, but hold on. Even in the scenario where your party being like stormed by arrows and you're using this to dodge in and out, let's say you're storming this castle, right? If you're the unlucky party member that keeps on going to the ethereal plane, the rest of your party is getting ahead of you because you can only teleport 10 feet every time, and they're moving their full distance.
right, but you could still move your full distance, because the teleporting doesn't happen until the end of your turn, so you can still take your movement,
Oh, right.
dash, and then at the end of the turn, you will get more movement. So it's actually if you.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Never mind.
So it's actually if you.
I was misremembering it as being at the start of your turn. You decide.
Yeah. So it's if you're the unlucky person who just just watches all your friends constantly teleporting to the ethereal plane, and you're like, guys, I want to join, but you're getting bombarded by arrows. But
that's true.
The thing that concerns me is essentially if you need to get through like a 10-foot wall, right, and use a 6th level spell, and you should be able to get everyone through, which is this. I don't know per se how I feel, because essentially the best that I can compare that to is like 2 cast a dimension door.
Your DM just makes thicker walls.
Well,
All right.
wait. You can only teleport to spots that you can see within 10 feet. You can't get through a wall with a spell.
You got owned, bro.
Right. You're right. I forget that just because you are on the ethereal plane doesn't mean that you like get fucking that you can like see like.
Yeah,
shit.
this isn't.
Never
this
mind.
Doesn't,
That's my concern. Drop it down one level, and we're fucking Gucci.
Yeah, Bleak is a weird spell because it doesn't lay down any of the benefits of like being on the ethereal plane. You just go there. So it's actually kind of unclear to me if you see the ethereal plane while you're there. Oh no, it does. You see and hear the plane you originated from. Okay. Yeah, so you don't even get to see the ethereal plane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Creatures like. Yeah.
But if you cast my advanced fairy finder,
yeah.
And then you shoot the arrows down on.
This is a fun chaos spell. If you're one of those players who wants to make a chaos character, wild magic sorcerer with this spell, you're like you already got enough. Casting chaos bolt every turn.
This could be a really. I really just like more than often. I feel like you're only going to be using this, and I like the idea of like just turning this into like a combo scenario with you and one other person who has infiltrated something. Like it's just. I think it has a really cool uses while niche, but I think it's useful to at least be able to do it in one other for sure.
One thing I might add, unless you want to keep full chaos, is perhaps adding a clause that says that a creature can end the effect on themselves as an action.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Full chaos.
So it's all up to the caster, which means if your caster goes unconscious, you're forced to blink for the duration of the spell.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Listen, it's full fucking send it. It's hilarious because I like to imagine you're trying to keep your healer safe, and your healer just doesn't. Healer just can't fucking blink to get out. But
that's hilarious.
I'm all good.
Yeah, I think obviously we're talking a lot about the chaos this causes, but yeah, I think we're good on this one. Probably just drop it down to 1 per slot and it's good to go. Not having control is an excellent nerf. That's true. That's very true.
That's just the blink spell in general.
All right. So we have Adam's spells here. And we're just going to go ahead and let Zach read these because he started the episode, so you can end the episode.
Sure.
Oh, this isn't on the page correctly. All right, go ahead.
That's fine. I've got. I don't know what these are upgrades to.
The first one's an upgrade to Acid Arrow.
Okay. Caustic Cannonade. Cannonade. 5th level evocation, wizard, 1 action, 90 feet, VSM, instantaneous. You launch a highly concentrated caustic spray towards a point you can see within range, dousing a 30-foot sphere around the point. Any creature in the sphere must make a dexterity saving throw, taking 66 acid damage on a failure or half as much on a success. A creature that failed this saving throw must make a constitution saving throw at the end of each of their turns, taking 2d6 acid damage on a failure and ending the effect on itself on a success. An affected creature can use an action on its turn to automatically succeed the constitution saving throw. When you cast a spell using a spell slot of 6th level or higher, increase the initial acid damage by 1d6 for each level above 5th, and increase the ongoing acid damage by 1d6 for every 2 levels above 5th. It's just like acid arrow, but in an area?
This is acid arrow in an area. Okay, a couple of things, Adam, which I know you're not watching, but you might watch the VOD. One, I think you don't call it a 30-foot sphere. I don't know if you're aiming for a 15-foot radius or a 30-foot radius. I'm assuming 30-foot radius because of the way you phrased it. But we'll have to figure that out. Second, this damage is really low for a 5th level spell. That's really low. This does as much, and I know that Fireball's hitting above its weight class, but this does as much damage as a Fireball. If they fail their second save. So they fail 2 saves to do as much damage as the Fireball. So I would up the damage probably to 8d6 plus like 3d6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think you need to have this staggered higher level thing. I think it'd just be 1d6 for both for each level above. And I think that would be okay.
Yo, why the fuck did he VSM these? Okay, wait, never mind. Melf's acid arrow does have a material component, but Arcane. Why does Arcane Barrage have it?
We're not there yet. Shut up.
Fuck.
I
think those changes are fine.
I think those 2 changes, and it's great.
And I think 30-foot radius.
I like dragging damage. I think it could be a little bit more elegant than saying an effective creature can use his action to automatically succeed, because they make the save at the start of their turn. Right? Oh, no, it's the end of each of their turns. Okay. It is the end for Acid Arrow as well. Okay. Yeah. No, I like this. I think the fact that it needs 2 saves for the 2 initial sources of damage, I know why you went for the less damage, because in theory it could be multiple if they keep on failing.
I would almost keep the 2d6 as is and just increase the initial.
I would increase the initial, and I would probably get rid of the save for the additional damage. They already failed their first save. They've already missed their chance to miss out on the extra damage, and that's how the original acid arrow works as well. And yeah, they just have to take an action to end it.
That's fair. I think that fits the theming of the original arrow as well.
Yeah, because the original arrow, it's not a save. It's just they take the additional damage.
Yeah, and it's only the next turn, but
yeah. And I would say like they take 66 acid damage and are like covered in acid or some other word, affected by the acid, until it's washed off or something, and then you can say an affected creature takes this damage in each turns unless they take an action, in which case they stop taking the damage, something like that. But yeah, put the onus on them to take the action, I think, is the right way. I
like the idea for that one. He's not here to really defend
or discuss.
Yeah. But those are our thoughts on the changes.
But yeah, I love this idea. I love an AoE acid splash, like burning acid damage. But I think we can go ahead and move on to the next one.
Okay.
With those changes. This one, Adam and Justin actually made together. So actually, Justin, do you want to read it?
I'll read it. Yeah, we did this in person together because we were just like, hey, what if we made a better like AoE version of Magic Missile? And so we now have Arcane Barrage, 6th level evocation, availability source for wizards, casting time 1 action, range 100 feet, 150 feet, components VSM, I guess, duration instantaneous. You create 3 pieces of glowing ammunition made out of magical force that burst on contact with their targets. Each piece of ammunition automatically hits a creature of your choice that you can see within range. Piece of ammunition deals 1d4 plus 1 force damage to its targets. Then any creature within 20 feet of a creature that was hit by a piece of ammunition must make a dexterity saving throw, taking 8d8 force damage on a failure or half as much on a success. Creatures that were hit by the ammunition have disadvantage on the saving throw. The shield spell can prevent a target from being hit by the ammunition or allow a creature to automatically succeed on the dexterity saving. So we came up with this idea and we're like, listen, magic missile, it explodes into, a little radius. Creatures can only be affected by one, explosion at a time. So you can't just send all 3 onto one and just have them do 24d8 force damage plus all the 1d1 force damage as well. Yeah. And when you upcast it, you create another piece of ammunition.
Yeah, I dig this a lot. I think this using the fact that magic missile automatically hits, and then making just an AoE around it is a lot of fun.
That's probably arguably too much of a nerf cut, because magic missiles, they do just deal like 1 or plus 1 force damage whenever they hit, but it's an automatic hit. That's the thing. So we wanted to keep the essence of magic missile there with an automatic hit.
So you said this isn't supposed to be able to hit the same target with multiple of these?
Well, if one target gets hit by all 3 pieces of ammunition, they're taking 3d4 plus 3 force damage, but they're not taking multiple instances of the AoE from the piece of ammunition.
Yeah.
Oh, since they all hit at the same time, like.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. One thing that I would probably add to this is at higher levels you shoot an additional one. I think at higher levels you should also do more damage, mostly because with magic missile, an additional bolt means additional damage and it scales. With this,
Right.
an additional 1d4 plus 1 damage to one creature is nothing.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to be optimal with this and hit as many creatures as possible.
Yeah.
This already covers a vast range of area, and additional area being hit by it doesn't add too much at higher levels without the additional damage. Yeah, at that level 1d4 zilch and 7 even less. That is correct.
Yeah. The idea was just being able to affect another like 20-foot radius. So
right, but the thing is that like since it already covers so much area, even more area becomes even more niche to be useful.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
like,
fair.
You can destroy a bigger like battalion. But like you can, if you have 1 battalion that you're fighting and 3 missiles is enough, 4 missiles isn't helping you at all.
So I'm a little confused.
Okay, go ahead.
If you have one target, so you have 3 targets and you hit 2 of the targets, and then there's another person in the middle. Are they making 2 dexterity saving throws for each of the ammunition?
Just one.
Loading?
No.
I don't see in the wording here how that is the case.
Yeah, then any creature within 20 feet of a creature that was hit by a piece of ammunition makes a dex save.
I guess it would say for each if it meant each.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Or the language would be talking about specific creatures. So like, if each creature within 20 feet of the creature that was hit, then that would be talking about specific instances. But this is talking about all missiles at once. For each creature within 20 feet of a creature that was hit, it's being more general and applying to all creatures that have been hit and creatures around them.
I'm glad you brought up that idea.
We can easily add just a clarification. A creature does not make more than one, or a creature cannot be affected by more than one area of something. I know there's like at least one. What does Meteor Swarm say?
Oh, good call. Can't believe we didn't think about that when we were discussing this.
The sphere size our quarters. A creature in the area of more than one fire burst is affected only once. So you can just add that. A creature in the area of more than one blast
ammunition
is only affected
once.
Okay, then we can add that clause. I'm glad that you brought up like the the affecting of Italian, because that was like something that we thought about for. It's like yeah in war, like if you have like a war mage or something like this feels like something that they should already be able to do. It's like yeah, cool, they can launch a fireball, but like what about just raw arcane energy? And that kind of this feels like that. This feels like what you would see just like a wizard like just shooting indiscriminate, or not indiscriminate, but just like random colors of like just like balls of energy that just fuck up a battlefield.
So interesting thing about the spell to me is that when I think of Magic Missile and upgrade versions of Magic Missile, I think of different ways you can go about it. My initial thought with Magic Missile and upgrading it is just like a billion Magic Missiles. And like I like to think of this like sort of like an R type shooter or like a Gladius game where you have weapons that have like different morphs that you can like you have different loadouts and stuff for like how up and fire. So like you have the original shot, the pea shooter, and then you have twin shot, triple shot, but you also have lob shot or like explosive shot, like just the different modifications to a single attack. That's what this feels like. It's just like one of those branches you can take, and that there's like 50 other different ways that mages upgrade their magic missile, and this is just one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like this a lot. I think just the clarification text that Meteor Swarm has, and then I mean, I would drop the material component just because Magic Missile doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And Adam didn't even bother to think of what a material component is, so I don't know why he bothered to add one. It's not like he had like this cool flavor idea. Otherwise, he would have wrote it down what it was. Just for higher levels, I'd probably also add an additional 1d8 damage, just so it has a further like incentive for higher level casting than it already has, which isn't much in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think 1d8 would make it even like
I would
particularly want to do for it, but like
I don't think so either. But it's better than this.
Yeah.
The main reason for like why you would upcast it is just to add another creature to have disadvantage on the save. That's pretty much it. But
which is pretty decent. But I think most reason you cast Magic Missile, for instance, at higher levels, is because it is additional automatic damage to one creature. I don't think anyone casts Magic Missile at higher levels to hit multiple Well, I won't say anyone. I think it's rare because Magic Missile does so little damage that what you really want is a bunch of guaranteed damage on one target.
Yeah.
Or maybe like splitting up a lot of missiles between like two targets, but rarely do you want one target, one missile, like I don't think that's what most people are using Magic Missile for. But yeah, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I think the next one might be the craziest one so far.
Why don't you read it, Shawn, since we all read one?
Yeah.
Sure. So Pinning Bolt, which is, if I'm not understanding, advancements to Witch Bolt. I'm going to look up Witch Bolt real quick. So Pinning Bolt. Casting type 1 action, range 90 feet. I don't like that it's 6th level, with it being a Warlock spell. I kind of want it to be 5th level, personally, because Witch Bolt's like supposed to be one of the title Warlock spells at 1st level. But anyway, concentration for 1 minute, so all those are the same from Witch Bolt. Make a ranged spell attack against a creature you can see within range. On a hit, the target takes 8d12 lightning damage. Okay. And is paralyzed until the start of its next turn. At the start of each of its turns, it takes 4d6 lightning damage. It must make a constitution save. The remaining paralyzed until the start of its next turn on a failure or ending the effect of a success. When you cast a spell using a spell slot 7 level higher, increase the initial damage by 1d12 and the ongoing damage by 1d6 for every slot level plus 6.
Let's fucking go. How do
This is
people
really-
fucking use-
This is really strong. Also, it literally doesn't have any of the problems that Witch Bolt has.
Exactly. Let's fucking go. Also,
Uh,
it's a strong save at the start of their turn. So if they succeed, they have their turn. Hold person, and that fucking that line. It's a strong save, but it's at the end of their turn. Granted, it doesn't do damage, right? This has a chance of both missing and them making their save before they're done being paralyzed.
I want to point out that the damage they take does not consume your action like Witch Bolt does. They just take it, and you can do whatever the fuck else you want as the caster for that turn.
Yes.
It is concentration.
It is This is strong. This is very strong.
Holy shit, Adam. This
Look, I don't know how I feel about this as being an upgrade to Witch Bolt. Perhaps requires a bonus action. Perhaps I could see that would be an interesting nerf. This is a lot of single target damage, and not only that, paralysis on top.
holy shit, dude.
I think this is what they call an overcompensation.
But how bad do you feel if you fucking go to make your attack roll with this spell and you miss?
That is a big thing, is that you do it. It is an all or nothing spell. What's the hold on? What is the suggested damage for a 6th level spell again? Because I'm pretty sure this exceeds that. I'm gonna be real.
I don't think so. Let's look at some 6th level spells
It might
here.
not. 8d12 is it's 3 levels above 3rd.
Okay. Disintegrate, chain lightning.
What's disintegrate? I'm more interested in disintegrate.
Yeah.
Keep in mind this also paralyzes though, which is why I'm saying I think it might be over. This is big. This is a big spell.
Disintegrate, which is a deck save. 10d6 plus 40 force damage.
Yeah, so not comparable then.
No.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. 60-10 plus 40. 40 is comparable to, say, if we did that in D12s, it's comparable to 3 or 60-12s. And then you said what was the other damage?
Sorry, I was getting ready to flip to another spell.
68 was it?
10d6.
10d6. So that's 35, or also another. So that's 12d12 roughly. Probably more like 11d12. And this does 8d12 on the hit, paralyzes, and then does 4d6 lightning damage every round if they fail, and continues to paralyze. That paralyzes huge.
Yeah, that paralyzes. If I don't know what your intentions are fully. If you wanted to keep the paralyze, maybe.
There are a lot of monsters that are immune to paralysis at higher levels. Hut says that they think it's actually fine. It could be. I'm going to be honest. My bigger reaction to this is that I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this being an upgrade to Witch Bolt.
I think if you
add,
you have to use either an action or a bonus action to keep this going on each one of your turns afterwards.
No, I think if you use an action or bonus action to do the extra damage, I think that's fine, but not to keep it going. I think as long as you're concentrating on it, the target's still
Basically
paralyzed.
the same thing.
Yeah, if you like Witch Bolt, if you use your bonus action in this case instead of action, if You use your bonus action to force them to make a con save, and then they take 4d6 lightning damage and are paralyzed on a fail.
What if you make them choose? They either stay paralyzed, or if you try to do the damage, then they make a save.
Well, that wouldn't be that bad. Because a persistent paralysis effect on concentration's not beyond the purview of a 6th level spell. But it would cost your action economy.
Yeah, I'd say either bonus action or action. I don't know and does do anything do that, like that you choose?
I mean, there's maybe not necessarily choose every round, probably not. You can use your bonus action to cause 1 round of paralysis or cause the damage with the save. My problem with that is that one of those avenues makes it weaker than hold person, which is no action economy and just free paralysis but you repeat your save every round with hold person.
At the end of your turn.
Right, but we're discussing
just guaranteed paralysis.
Right.
Yeah, guaranteed paralysis.
Or damage, and they can shake it.
I think guaranteed paralysis is too strong.
Maybe.
Guaranteed paralysis at any level is too strong because if they're paralyzed and alone, like a boss monster, for instance, they just lose. They have no recourse to like end the spell. They're just done.
Yeah, but if it's a boss monster, usually you'll have like legendary resistances. I
guess.
Or they'll be immune to the paralyzed condition, like you said earlier.
Sorry, I mistyped. You make the save either way. Yeah, making the save either way is one way of doing it. I think this might be fine. I think this is fine. A save every turn at the start of your turn to take damage or be paralyzed is, it's comparable to hold person. And hold person is a 2nd level spell.
Yeah, at this point when you're probably casting, hold monster, which is where the fuck is hold monster at? I always forget what level it is. 5th level. So I mean, that's probably where you're more than likely wanting to compare it to. Is that like where would you place this compared to a 5th level hold monster?
That's true. Hold person only works on humanoids.
And hold
monster is 5th level to paralyze any creature. That's a very good point. I always hold person as being a paralysis effect, but it is only humanoids it affects.
Yeah.
With that in mind, then yeah, I do think this is too strong.
I also run into the issue of, like you're saying, Shawn, where like this doesn't quite. It feels disconnected from Witch Bolt.
Yeah,
I can see where it's still connected.
I see the threads. It just feels too away.
Yeah.
Like I said, it feels like an overcompensation. I think there's ways to fix Witch Bolt and make it stronger that don't just flat out make it different. Because this loses all of the downsides of if they're out of range, if they're behind full cover. And I'm fine with losing those, but it loses those. It loses the free action for damage, which I think is the big thing that makes Witch Bolt. Because this puts all the onus on the target, not on yourself to do the action.
Yeah. I think
if this were an action every turn to persist the paralysis with the damage, then it would be more like Witch Bolt and more fair, I think, for a 6th level spell.
I also agree. I think
it's about as connected as Arcane Barrage. I feel like Arcane Barrage is more connected than this personally. Because it starts with the automatic hit Witch Bolt. It has the downsides of shield preventing it. And it has the automatically hit translated to you had disadvantage on the save. I think Arcane Barrage is considerably closer to Magic Missile than this is to Witch Bolt. But I think if we'd made this an action to force the con save from that point forward, that'll make it more like Witch Bolt and make it more fair, I think, more balanced.
Yeah, if you use your action, Well, the repeating damage is already 4d6, and I think the repeating damage at 4d6 is fine. I don't think that needs to get upped because
I would personally make it 2d12, or I'd make the whole damage 16d6 and make the persistent damage 4d6 and increase both. Oh, this is harder at higher level. I have a fix for Witch Bolt, which doesn't quite work here.
Yeah,
I would like it to be 2d12 just because
I think
12s are cool to roll.
12s are cool
D12s
to
are
roll.
cool to roll. That is
But
one of my
feel-
problems with Witch Bolt is that 12s are cool to roll, but one of the best ways to make it scale at higher levels would have to remove D12s.
Yeah. What to clarify? What are you using your action for with your?
You're using your action to force them to make a con save or be paralyzed and take 46 lightning damage.
And if you don't use your action,
then the spell persists, but there's no negative effect.
okay.
So you can continue to concentrate on it and use your action for something else. It's just that you could use your action at any moment to force the con save.
I like that.
And you're effectively recasting hold person every round, or hold monster every round, as well as with some lightning damage.
I like that idea because I thought you were saying use the action or it dropped entirely.
Oh no, absolutely not. No. That's one of the problems with Witch Bolt is that if you use your action to do anything else, it ends, which is stupid. You already have concentration. Just keep it with that. I
really like this. I really like this because not only is this like a good chunk of damage, but then, the sorcerer, warlock, or wizard then kind of can put themselves in this utility role that the wizard, for the most part, can fit into utility roles just fine. The warlock has some utility to him, but the sorcerer doesn't get a whole lot of utility throughout their spell list. This gives them an option to kind of be like, guys, I'm going to do this one thing. This is going to be my job, is to hold this creature down. You guys go after it.
Yeah.
I like that change to it.
I like that change too, and I like it being a con save as well, which separates it from hold person or hold monster, which is a wisdom save.
And for me, that keeps the connection with Witch Bolt enough that it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because you're still having to sacrifice an action. You're losing a lot of the negative effects, which is awesome because Witch Bolt fucking sucks. But you're still having to use an action to do something that is useful, though. They get to save, but you're at least doing the damage and possibly paralyzing.
Yeah. And then my own personal change that I would make is making this 2d12 and just scaling both on d12s. I think at 6th level, scaling the repeated damage is fine for d12s. If you're doing, for instance, what would this be? 5d12 lightning damage per action that you spend to keep the spell up. I think that's fair at a 9th level spell. And I know everybody likes rolling d12s, and I know Adam especially likes rolling d12s, which is part of the reason why he took Witch Bolt initially, then hated it. I think those are good changes. So, just as a recap to finish off this last spell, the initial damage is fine. The initial effect is fine. And then you would just, as an action on each of your turns during the spell's duration, you can force them to make a con save or be paralyzed and take additional damage. And that's it. That's the only change. Basically, putting the onus on you to use your action economy to persist the paralysis effect, as opposed to doing a passive con save. Because it is just a little too strong with hold person being the first spell, which allows you to paralyze any creature, and that being 5th level.
Any human.
That's a hold person?
Yeah.
Oh, hold monster being the first spell that you can use to paralyze any creature. And I think that will wrap up that spell.
I like that.
Yeah.
And that finishes up for today. We went through 10 spells. Yeah, 10 spells. And I'm pretty happy with all of them. I feel like we didn't change many of them much at all, honestly.
No.
I think the biggest one we changed
any major changes
was probably Justin's Sensory Alarm.
Heyo. I figured that was going
we
to.
did change we did change the Dagger Storm a little bit. We changed the area. Oh, that's about actually that's like the only thing we changed. Never mind. We didn't change it that much. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us, by the way, Hut. Again, cool to see you after seeing you on Reddit.
Yeah.
And hopefully we do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard or Eastern, whatever. And we're posting a lot of social media stuff recently, so you can definitely check us out on Reddit.
We got a lot of backlog shit.
These go on Reddit typically the Friday after. So in 2 days, you'll see our updated versions of these spells, which is where the community starts to tell us what we fucked up. And we can make further edits from that point. I know the Glaive was particularly controversial today. I'm sure some of these spells will be controversial when we start posting them. But that's, we like seeing that stuff, and we like hearing what everybody has to think. Before we wrap anything up here, guys, you got anything to say?
I will miss you guys.
Yeah, Zach will not be here.
Like
10 days that I'm gonna be gone.
Don't lie to me
I
like
hope
that.
you have fun.
It should be great, but goddamn, it's gonna be a trip.
Why are you going? Why Missouri, man? There's so many states that are better. Like
I'll talk to you about it out of
Kentucky. Like Kentucky. I know why you're going. I'm just giving you shit for the state specifically.
Good animal rescue reserves. So
wait. Word of the day is caustic, which is like a sort of vitriolic reaction. Essentially, caustic just means it reacts very violently to things. Not necessarily violently, but it reacts. It's a chemical term.
Another independent variable. That's an Apex Legends joke.
You got me.
Drink more water. We didn't talk about what we're doing next week.
Oh shit, we didn't decide what we're doing next week.
So,
shit.
I would like to present an idea.
Okay.
In one of the group chats that I'm in Facebook. And we don't have to do this next week per se, but this is something that this person called party feat. Essentially, it's something that
teamwork feats. Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially, it's like a boon that you give out to your parties at certain levels. He wanted me to just shout him out real quick that he's at Instagram at the bearded.dm for this idea. So he's got a few things in here. For example, dynamic initiative. Once per long rest, 2 party members may agree to switch initiatives at the beginning of a battle. Protective engagement. A party member may take an action to immediately allow another party member within 5 feet to use a reaction to move up to their movement speed without provoking an opportunity attack from an enemy that the enemy initiating party member is engaged with. My personal favorite out of all of these, glory kill. When killing an enemy with a melee attack, make a performance or intimidation check. Upon a success determined by the DM, all party members who can see the glory kill gain temporary hit points determined by the DM, typically a 1d8. So
these are you want us to bring features or boons that allow for mechanical party synergy and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
When do you get these party feats?
So this person said that they recently just gave out their first party feat to their party of level 6s. He said that
it would be a cool idea to give it like at certain levels, like 5, 10, 15, or something increment like that would be cool.
Yeah, he says, nothing game breaking, but a boon to the party. They will likely gain 3 to 4 of these throughout the entire campaign. Now we don't. Now I'm just going off the assumption that their campaign's going all the way to level 20 because, unless it's
okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to specifically make these boons that work under this guy's system, or do we just want to make anything that contributes to party synergy, like teamwork feats, or like, for instance, Kurt's combo feat that he gave Sid and CJ in his campaign?
I want to create like a feat, not something that you would like. Oh, I'm gonna pick. My character's gonna pick up this feat, but a feature that you can give to your party.
So specifically boons.
Yes.
So specifically, we want to give out little ribbon abilities that a DM can hand out to the party. We don't want to. We don't want
That's
to
cool.
make. We don't want to make feats or magical
don't wanna
items
make-
or stuff that
Nope.
do that stuff. Okay.
Nope. Following kind of, this guy's system. I think, that would be. I think this is a.
So this guy is recruiting us to create a shit
No,
ton
no,
of
no.
feats
No.
for his game.
No. I said my group and I do a D&D podcast. I'm totally bringing this up idea for us to potentially add more to.
He just
And
he,
he's
he
like-
just happened to ask you to shout him out in the middle of the.
That's all. That's all. He was just like, feel free to shout me out. And you know what? I feel obligated to. Because
That's
I
fair.
think this is.
That's a fun idea. We'll have to get Adam up on the rub about that.
Yeah, I can copy paste the post that he made into our Discord chat.
Let's establish more structure here.
Right.
Do we want to also include like the milestones that a party will get this, or the conditions in which they get it, and stuff like that?
Let's add that in there, because I feel as though we can establish like hey, a party could get these boons through like these earlier levels, and can take
Shit.
I don't think it could be like different like levels of increasing goodness for
We
the
could-
feats. Just
we
like
could do, like,
we
tiers
can
of play.
specify which
These
like,
are-
what tiers of play you would get them.
These could like tiers of play.
But I think they should all be about the same strength level, and then like you can just
Yeah.
get more when the DM gifts them to you at whatever levels they're choosing.
Sure. Hut asked if we have a Discord, which makes me very sad because
Do it, Shawn.
we have a friend who keeps on telling me like a Discord, because we should have a Discord. It's true. I'll say this. I'll work with him to make a Discord by next week's episode.
Woo! Thank you, Hut.
So I'll be
Community
sure to do
pressure.
that. But yeah, Hut says that they'll be here for sure next week. We'll see about that, because you're about to hear my corny outro line.
Fuck,
So we'll see
that's
if you
right.
feel not embarrassed enough by that to show up. But that's gonna wrap it up. Our next week is going to be making these boons, and specifically we're making boons that encourage party synergy and are given out at different tiers of a full level campaign that are about roughly the same strength, so that a DM can freely give them out to their party if they feel appropriate at their own tables. It's a very specific category, and I'm glad we said it on a recording. But that's going to be it for this week. So everything that which is lost must be found, and that which is found must be remembered. See you next week.